With multiple transfers officially signing with WVU, as well as freshmen beginning to enroll early, it's time for our first roster update of the 2024 WVU football season here on the Country Roads webcast. Let's go! What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Jordan Cruz back here with Country Roads webcast. And before I get into this video, just want to give you guys a quick reminder, if you would, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Giving us a like on this video will really help not only its performance, but future videos performances here on the channel as well. And if you're a West Virginia fan and you haven't already, be sure hit that subscribe button. Helps us and it helps you, as it helps get more of this Mountaineer sports content out to Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, let's get into it. All right, as stated in the cold open, multiple transfers have now officially signed with West Virginia, and as these signees roll in, officially announced by the university there on WVUsports.com, and the official roster is updated, I'll provide more roster updates here on the Country Roads webcast. If you didn't follow our roster updates last offseason or here in the past, the future ones will be titled with the date, so you'll know which one is the most recent one. This being the first one of the 2024 roster updates. It will not have a date because it's the initial one. It'll have its own playlist separate from the 2023 WVU football roster playlist. Obviously, this will be the first video in the 2024 roster update playlist, and I will share you guys my running roster tracker here that I'll use throughout the offseason to keep up with this as these transfers officially sign and as more freshmen enroll throughout the spring, and then, of course, more so into the summer. But we do have linebacker Reed Carrico, who was officially announced by the university. One of 3 transfers already officially announced, and more to come here in the near future on future roster updates. Then we also had another linebacker, of course, in Ty French, going to be a great pass rusher for the Mountaineers, expected to maybe play the bandit position, announced as well. And then most recently, cornerback Aiden Garnes coming over to West Virginia from Duquesne, going to be a very talented player in the secondary this season for the Mountaineers. The most recent signing that was announced transfer-wise for West Virginia, as well as some other freshmen that have enrolled early. But for a look at those, let's take a look at the roster here as it stands currently for West Virginia heading into the spring. All right, and this Google document will become familiar to you throughout the offseason as we continue to update it as more players are added to the roster. And the one caveat I always like to state in these roster updates is I'm only tracking the scholarship players on these, so preferred walk-ons, players that haven't earned a scholarship yet that have been here as walk-ons in the past, aren't going to be featured on here, but if and when they do earn a scholarship, they will be. We saw last season Caden Bizer be added to this list, Hudson Clement be added to this list after being preferred walk-ons in the past, so if they ever earn a scholarship, you'll see their names on here. But for now, these are players only currently enrolled as well. That's how I track this, and when I update this is once they enroll, they get added here. So I know there are other true freshmen that are going to be enrolling early, but until they appear on the university's official roster, I won't add them here, so you're only going to see just a couple or so of true freshmen on this list. We'll touch on those as we go through, as well as the new additions at the transfer position. You'll see I've obviously updated the year on the other players that are returning on the roster. They've already been here, Garrett, as reflected by Garrett Green now being a senior as opposed to a junior last year. All of that, and I won't read through all of these, obviously. I'll just try and point out some of the changes as I slowly scroll through here, but I will continue to update this, as I said, throughout the offseason as more players are added. One change here, TJ Johnson, a freshman last year, was a tight end. It looks like he's going to be moving to receiver, so have him shifted over to receiver. And right now, as far as position groupings go, I kind of just have all the receivers grouped together, all the linebackers grouped together. We'll break it down more by, outside receivers and slot as we get closer to the season starting, probably once we get into the spring and learn a little bit more about exactly where all the newcomers will fit in here. Continuing to scroll through here, you see one of the true freshmen that enrolled early that is already on campus there on the university's official roster, and that's Jack Samarco, a true freshman tight end, 6'6". He shows up here on the roster. As we move along throughout the roster here, crossing into the offensive line now, where we will have a transfer addition here in the near future. Hasn't yet been announced by the university officially. When that happens, we'll do another roster update and add his name here. Obviously, that's going to be over at the right tackle position. We're talking about Xavier Bosley, believed to join West Virginia here in the very near future. But right now, we have pretty much the same along the offensive line. The one change, Brandon Yates sliding over to the center position, where he'll play for West Virginia this year, likely to compete to be the team starter starter there, obviously the incumbent for sure at that position. Other than that, the only other changes really on the offensive line is the graduate years changing on some of these other players here. Flipping over to the defensive side as we continue to scroll through here, no real big additions here on the defensive line quite yet. In the near future, that's expected to change as well, hopefully, with the addition of TJ Jackson from Troy. But then we get to the bandit position, and we do have Ty French slotted in here, as we just talked about recently with the announcement of West Virginia officially signing him. And then also, you may have seen in the thumbnail, we did include one of the true freshmen on that thumbnail, and that, of course, is the 4-star West Virginia addition. That's going to be a great pass rusher in the future for West Virginia, I think, and glad to see him enroll early. One of the biggest signings of this recruiting class for West Virginia, and of course, that's Obina Onwuka, expected to play the bandit position. He's already on campus, so you see him here on the roster. And then when we move down to the linebackers, like I said, haven't split them up by position group just yet, but Reed Carrico, as we mentioned in the signings of the transfers there, on campus, so you see him here reflected in the roster as well and appearing there. And then we continue to scroll through here. I know Spear looks a little slight right now, but I'm sure that they're going to slide some guys around, factor them in there to help them out at that Spear position. As we know, the defense is going to change a little bit coming up in 2024 as well. A bit more of a 3-4 look, so the Spear may be more of a nickel type role, kind of as we saw a little bit last season with Marcus Floyd playing that a little bit. But right now you got Raleigh Collins there. We get to the cornerbacks, and this is where we have Aiden Garnes, who we just talked about West Virginia adding via the transfer portal. He's officially signed and added to the university's roster there just today. Actually, his signing was officially announced, the most recent one that has been announced at the time of this recording anyways. And then, of course, Montre Miller, kind of the caveat here, he's still listed on the roster, so I don't know if he's got the waiver, if they've already applied for the waiver, but he's got to get that waiver to come back for this final season as a graduate player. That's what the GR stands for there. That's how he's listed on WVU's roster. That's how we'll list him here as well. And then moving along, you see the safeties, not too many new additions there quite yet. Hopefully that'll change in the future for West Virginia as well. And then same kicker, same punter, same long snapper as last season. Michael Hayes, Oliver Straw, and Austin Brinkman. Hayes returning for his final season of college football. Brinkman going to be a senior this year, and Oliver Straw will be a junior. So I'll slowly scroll back up through here, but I tried to point out all the changes that I could remember off the top of my head, save for, obviously people's years of eligibility changing, but going to continue to update this throughout the off season here on the Country Roads webcast. Like I say, as more of these freshmen enroll early and are added to the university's official roster, we'll do roster updates coinciding with that, and of course coinciding with more transfers officially signing with the Mountaineers, as Aiden Garnes did today, joining Reed Carrico and Ty French, who you see here on this roster for our first WVU football roster update of the 2024 season here on the Country Roads webcast. So there you have it, Mountaineer Nation, a bit of an early look at an early version of what West Virginia's spring roster could look like. Like I said, more transfers expected to be added to that roster in the near future, as well as some other freshmen that are going to enroll early here at WVU. But be sure, let me know your thoughts on how the roster is shaping up for West Virginia heading into the spring, and what position would you like to see West Virginia target in the portal post-spring. However you're feeling there, be sure to let us know. We really appreciate those interactions as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation. Having said that, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz, and until next time, let's go Mountaineers.